Welcome back, everyone, to Out of the Bay. We were born at sea, raised on radio, and we are today caught in the moonlight, John. What? You
Uh,
don't
uh,
like my cold opens? Come on, you got to be ready for
yeah,
anything.
I normally am, but I got nothing this time. So
All
you
right.
may continue.
All right. Well, let's bring on somebody who maybe does have something to add. He has been a guest on Out of the Bay in the past. It was a great conversation. We're super excited to have him back. You may know him as Starbuck. We know him as Bruce Blackman, and we know him as today's guest. Bruce, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, glad I'm stoked to be here, man.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're stoked to have you back. Just I wanted to point out for people who have joined us in the last, I don't know, year or two, we did interview Bruce. Was it last season or the year before, John? Do you remember?
At least 2 seasons ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got into the whole history of the everyone's favorite hit, Moonlight Feels Right. And of course, if you look over my shoulder, you can see that there was
Oh
a
yeah, I see
book,
the.
Bruce, that you wrote, and I was lucky enough to get one of the few handwritten copies. Are those still available at your website, hand signed?
Yeah, they are.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, we're gonna make sure everyone checks that out, and we will put all the relevant links in the show notes. But the occasion for us talking to you again today is because you have an exciting new release that just came out about 3 weeks ago as we're talking here today. And tell us a little bit about what this is and how it came to be.
Well, actually, it came to be because a record company called me, and as much as trouble as I had getting record deals through my life, this was the easiest one of all. And they called me and they wanted to release a compilation. And I said, "How many years?" And they said, "Well, up to 2023, because this started put together last year."
Mhm.
And so I sat down and worked on. I basically just used airplay to decide it's 35 songs, and I just used the airplay 1 through 35 because I have 127 published songs, and they all get airplay. The least of which is about 3 times a year in Bangkok. But so I just picked the top 35 airplay songs to put on the album.
Yep.
So
Not
this is a
yeah, top 35. Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
It's a 3 disc vinyl set. We called it. I'm already forgotten. Seafoam turquoise or something like that. They're really cool looking records. 35 songs, as you said, and it covers everything. It even covers your what other band was it? Corona? Is that what you guys went by? You had a quick little side sort of chain in the '80s. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the reason that happened was Private Stock was our label.
Okay.
We had a song called "Everybody Be Dancing," and it was at number 38 with a bullet in Billboard. Private Stock goes out of business. So then I got a deal with United Artists. They wanted to release some songs from the second Starbuck book album, which was Rock and Roll Rocket,
Mhm.
but they couldn't get the rights to them. So I signed a deal with United Artists. Well, then Jerry Rafferty broke out with Baker Street. So that was their marketing tower. So they sort of dropped us.
Mhm.
And then after that, it was in 1980, I went into the studio and self-financed an album, sent it out. And in the meantime, United Artists had been sold to another group. So I said, what the heck? I went back to United Artists, but I couldn't use the name Starbuck because the previous United Artists ownership had dropped Starbuck. So I just came up with a name with Corona, bad name today, but at the time, Corona is a Swedish gold coin,
Ooh.
spelled with a K. And I got the deal on the group Corona. They had no earthly idea it had anything to do with Starbuck. So that's how I got that deal. And then we had a song, Let Me Be. It actually went number one in Japan, but it hit, I think, around about number 43 in America.
I actually found that on Spotify on a Lost Hits of the '80s compilation where there are some deep cut nuggets from a lot of artists on there. But while
Yeah.
I was looking around, so today I noticed you have remasters of the first 2 albums on streaming, but not the third one, which I just looked up because I got my vinyl copies here. See, I got my all three.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
noticed that this one, the Searching for a Thrill, that was United Artists, right?
Yes.
And these others are private stock. Okay.
Yes. But there are, I think there's 3 songs on the compilation that are from the so-called Corona. Uh,
Oh,
uh,
three. Oh,
there's 3 of them on there. They
So
talked to me about a second collection, which they'll base on how well this one does, but they've already told me that they want a second collection because they sold out the first run of the first one, and they're on the second run of it now.
nice.
Bruce, you mentioned that this goes up to 2023, which I don't know if everyone knows, but you're remaining very active in writing, recording, publishing songs. Is this, are you as active now as you were back in the 70s or more active?
Probably more active because of streaming. Um, what happened to me is I had done a song called "I Love Doing Nothing," and this a DJ from the Galleon Club in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, called me and said, "Man, this is a gem. Would you mind if we put this on the radio?" Well, I said, "Huh, are you kidding? No, please do." Boom. He puts it on the radio there, 94.9 The Surf, which is a big station on the East Coast, and it went to #1. So I went,
Wow.
okay, so let's start releasing some records. It did well in the yacht rock genres. There really aren't stations that are just call themselves pure yacht rock other than some streaming, but there's a lot of them that play yacht rock, soft rock, light rock, whatever you want to call it. Um, but anyway, after that, I just had a string. I had in the past 2 years in the beach music, yacht rock, trop rock, and some adult contemporary. I can penetrate 5-10% of those non-conglomerate stations, but I've had 5 #1s, a #3, and a #5 right in a row. My current single, Jones About You, was the top impact mover of the week this week at #12.
Wow.
Wow. I
It's
bet you're
been,
happy you don't have to travel around the country handing out 45s anymore.
hey, I'm traveling right now.
You're not handing out 45s. Are you handing out vinyl?
No, no. Record company won't even give me. I got 2 copies. I had to buy them,
Ah, yeah.
hey, record company said not a lot has changed.
Well, this collection, speaking of records, is something that I think fans would want to hold in their hands. You mentioned the turquoise. There's also a dark green marble vinyl, which is
Yeah,
extremely cool.
yeah,
It just, this is the only place where all of these songs exist in one location, correct? You can't get this collection anywhere else but through this new release, right?
that's it. That's it. The
Yep.
only place.
So we'll let people know renaissancerecordsus.com is the place to find that. We will link to that in the show notes. When you went back to compile these and you said you did it by airplay, were there any surprises either that made the cut or that didn't make the cut based on what you may have thought going into the project?
Actually, both. There was a song called "Call Me" that I thought was one of our better songs because it had the unusual synth bass that was doing dum 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 dum. It was real technical. I thought that would be there, but it wasn't. It was like #70.
Hmm.
And then others like "I Got to Know" was second from "Moonlight Feels Right." But then "I Love Doing Nothing," one of my new songs, was the third most airplay song. So
Wow.
yeah, there was all kinds of surprises. But I went, what using streaming, the difference in that and tertiary radio is tertiary is playing what they're deciding that they're going to let you hear. Whereas streaming is it's the customer deciding what they want to hear. So it's
Mm,
a little more accurate in what truly is popular. I mean, for all we know, Andrea Bocelli may be the biggest selling artist in the world because the pop charts now, Billboard has over 200 charts.
yeah.
And and what so the pop charts are it's for the kids just like it was when we were kids. My mama used to every slow song we had was da 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 da
Yeah.
da da da. Got like 50 of them like that. My mother would come in and say, "How do you listen to that? That's the devil's music. They're all the same." It wasn't the devil's music, but she was right about they were all the same. So
We
hey,
talked about that, John, that 12/8 signature time.
The 1645 or
Yeah,
1625. Yeah, that was
one one
that
six
is
minor, 1 6 minor, 2 minor 5.
there
right,
you
right.
go. Well, I got to ask about this might be my top 5 favorite Starbucks songs, and it didn't make the cut. and maybe it's not getting the streams. So I want to mention it. So it should get the streams. But one last love song that was not in your top 35.
They say love songs ain't in anymore.
Oh,
Deep
so
down
good.
call me, I know what a bore, but they never gonna take mine away. Yeah, that was a song, and I was trying to do kind of an Elvis thing. Sometimes I feel low, like my head hanging low. I was trying to do kind of an Elvis-y feel to it, but that'll be on the next one. It was just right under the cut. I think that was number 36.
Well, I know
Uh,
you went through several years ago now. You put together that song list or compilation called The Lost Masters that's on Spotify, which you dug. Now, that was probably, I know you told us you hand selected those songs, but those were probably picked in a different way, more what you felt best exemplified the sound of Starbuck, or do you recall?
Yeah, well, it was that, and a lot of the songs that had more Bo Wagner's marimba in them, and these are just songs that were truly lost. That people, most of them came from the Rock and Roll Rocket album, which got killed right after it came out because the record company went out of business. And by the way, they didn't pay anybody either. You say private stock in front of Frankie Valli, and his head will explode. I saw him in Atlanta. We went to his show, and he had "My Eyes Adored You." Da, da,
Yeah.
da, da, da. He had that song, and he didn't get paid either.
Oh
Mhm.
boy. Yeah, we
Uh,
spoke to Kenny Nolan not too long ago that wrote that tune with him.
yep.
I had a
I,
question though. Tom, you got something?
well, he brought up Bo, so I wanted to go
Okay,
back to
go
Bo
there
real
first. I'll
quick.
come back to this other thing.
So, co-founding member, right? Bo Wagner, the famous marimba player. I don't know if it was the episode for which we interviewed you, Bruce, or as a later episode, where it just dawned on me one day that I was listening to Moonlight Feels Right. And for the first time and maybe forever, my ears truly heard that marimba solo. Like I've heard it a million times, but then I said, and I pointed out to the audience, and a lot of our listeners said, yeah, I've never really paid attention to that either. It's amazing. And then John said, I think that Bruce told us that that was take one. So can you clear that up just because my memory is a little fuzzy?
That's correct. When we went in the studio, we recorded at Studio One in Doraville, Georgia. It's very famous. It was the home of Atlanta Rhythm Section and Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
As big as you get.
Yeah.
So we were like the redheaded stepchild. So we had a 3-hour session from 9 till noon, and Leonard Skinner was coming in behind us. As a matter of fact, when I was doing the vocal, Ronnie Van Zant was sitting on the couch in the control room. But what happened is we did the whole song, and just as we were recording, I said, let's add another verse and chorus in case we need it. Because back then you could cut something out, but you couldn't add anything. If you wanted to add something and all your tracks were filled, you just had to start over. So we did an extra verse and chorus to put a solo in it. Solos were a big deal in that era. So I did a P3 solo, and it didn't sound right. I did a clavinet solo, it didn't sound right. And Bo said, well, let me try it on my marimba. We said, okay. So we mic'd this marimba, put two Neumanns on the bottom so we could get that resonance, and then 357s on the top.
Wow.
Bo walks out there, hit record, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, did that solo in one take, ad lib, just the way you hear it.
Oh my God.
And at the end of it, his Bo had a real squeaky voice. He said, "Was that all right?"
I
I
think
said, "Yeah, Bo, come on in." I mean, it was as quiet as a church mouse walking on cotton when he finished. Everybody was astonished that you couldn't even see his hands. I mean, his
So
hands blur.
was there even reason to do another take? Were there two takes, two, three, and
Oh,
four? So that was it. It was take one. He's got it.
no.
I'm out.
I saw that and I said, that's unbelievable. That is, I don't know. I wish the guy we'd had camera in there when he did that,
Mhm.
because Bo Wagner could play faster than you could hear. I saw him take his two index fingers, sit down at a grand piano, and using his two index fingers as a mallet, play Flight of the Bumblebee. I mean,
Wow.
just
Unbelievable.
that's impossible. That
Did
is
he
not
play
possible.
anything on the? Did he play anything on the bed track portion, like the basics? Or
Yeah, he played vibes chords. He's playing
okay,
extensions, third and fourth extensions above the tonics, just downbeat chords. They're just kind of laid in there, part of the sound.
Yeah, so he knew all the notes he wanted to use already.
Oh, he was virtuoso beyond. Today, virtually every university in America uses that solo in marimba. Uh, in Moonlight Feels Right, uses that marimba solo as a PhD in mallet. You got
Wow.
to play that, and damn few can do it.
Well, since we're talking about old studio gear, that kind of takes me back to my other question. You told us last time about a run-in you had with Jeff Lynne and how it had to do with your mini Moog. And you had on stage, you told us you had 4 mini Moogs going at once.
No, six.
6. Okay. How many of those did you actually own? Or was it like you had one and you had to rent them for the tour? Because it makes me ask another question to sort
No,
about the
I
studio.
owned all six of them.
Okay. Wow.
Now, many Mo gave us three because they saw us somewhere using uh, 3 mini Moogs, and we ended up needing six because a mini Moog is monophonic,
Right.
so one note at a time. That's it. So if you look, even the opening refrain in Moonlight, da 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 da, that's 3 parts. So you got to have 3 people, 3 hands just to play those 3 notes, and then da 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 da. That's 3 parts. And then there's other parts in there. So we actually, Bo Wagner also had a mini Moog, and he played. It just took 6 hands to reproduce our sound. When we first went out, we didn't have that. When we went out and toured, and first show was in Andersonville, South Carolina. People threw tomatoes at us because we weren't prepared. We only had 2 original songs, "Moonlight Feels Right" and "Lash LaRue." So I sang those 2 songs, "Lagrange,"
Mm.
"I Can Help," and "Low Rider." That was the 3 songs I sang.
Mm.
People didn't come there to hear us sing ZZ Top.
Right.
That ZZ Top doesn't fit well with Moonlight Feels Right. So we had to come back and regroup and put all the necessary keyboards together to be able to reproduce our recorded sound.
Was it a conscious decision early on, or was it just by necessity or availability that you made the Moog such a big part of your sound?
No, my Moog serial number is 0007.
Ooh.
It made me sick because it's got one extra O in it. I wanted to be 007. I got it right when they came out. When I wrote Moonlight Feels Right, my right hand was in a cast. So I was sitting on the floor of our apartment, just playing single note, da, 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 da. And I started singing "The Wind Blew Some Luck in My Direction" against that. So that was the first song we recorded, and it was so heavy mode that we just went into the technology of the day, which was mode and Mellotron. You used Mellotron for string sounds, etc.
Yep. Well, since we're on this topic, I was just going to ask only, I guess, 2 questions. One was about Bo, and now this question about Moonlight Feels Right. In case people don't go listen to our prior interview, I can't sing along to Moonlight Feels Right without throwing the ad-libbed chuckle, right? Leading into the chorus, right? So could you remind our listeners how that happened and how it happened more than once in the song?
Okay. Well, when we were recording, as I told you, Bo had just done his solo. We recorded live. I mean, we went in there, went 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, played the whole track except for the solos because that was for the extra verse and chorus that I had added. So we did the marimba solo. Now, Rodney Mills, who produced 38 Special, Doobie Brothers, Leonard Skinner, Atlanta Rhythm Section, he was the engineer. And he said, well, they're gonna be angry because they wanted you to finish this song. We've only got 15 minutes left. We hadn't done a vocal. And I said, well, I'll do the vocal right now. And he said, we can't. The band's tearing down. There's too much noise out there. I said, well, just plug me into the board. He said, nobody's ever done that. I said, well, they have now. So Shure 57 put it on a stand between my legs, walked over there and hit record, and the song started playing. I had on headphones. One side of the headphones didn't work. The other side was static. But I just started singing and I kept going. I don't know why I kept going. So it sounded so bad that when I got to the end of the first verse, I went, I was just chuckling at myself. When the record company heard that, they liked the chuckle so much, they made me go back in and overdub a chuckle in the second and third verses.
That's funny. I don't think labels get much right, but they actually got that one right. That was something that became a signature component to the song.
Well,
And
the one thing they got wrong is they said the song was too long because it was 3:45.
oh,
They said
Mm.
it's got to be under 3 minutes, so you got to cut out the marimba solo.
No.
Oh, I know. And I went, I have no idea how I had the Stones to say no because every record company in America turned us down because they said we weren't Southern rock, we weren't disco. And that's what they were looking for. But I did say no. I said, we're leaving it in. And I'm real glad I did that.
did the label ever try to tell you to use the chuckle again, like in the future, like so it could become a signature? Did they?
They did, but I avoided that. I
Yeah.
didn't, I didn't, you can beat something to death easily enough.
Yeah.
Actually, they wanted me to write a song called Sunshine Feels Fine. And I went,
Oh, you're kidding.
I passed on that one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, since we're having laughs, I gotta ask a little trivia question that hopefully has a little bit of a laugh in it. Tom, you can try to answer, but this is more for Bruce. What do these three songs have in common? Manhattan's "Kiss and Say Goodbye," Gary Wright, "My Love Is Alive," and Elton John, "Kiki D, Don't Go Breaking My Heart." Do you know?
Is this a trick question?
No, it's not. But I'm glad it's.
I have a guess.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
This is just a guess. They were all supplanted at number one by Moonlight Feels Right.
One or two, yeah, they were what held it back to number 10.
Oh,
Those
well,
were
I
the-
got two stories about that.
Okay.
We were at the Gene Autry Continental, the Ride House, and I wanted to go up the swimming pool with stuff on top. So I walked up there. There was a metal door. It said "Do not enter," but I don't read so well. So I opened the door and walked in and walked right in between Elton John and Kiki D, looking at each other, going, "Don't know breaking my heart." Yeah, da, da, da. Walked right in the middle of them. And Elton was really pissed about that. I didn't know they were shooting a video. So, and the other thing was Private Stock got into a big row with RIAA, Radio Industry Association of America. That's who certifies sales. So Private Stock would not report our sales to RIAA. So basically the way it worked, man, you take the number of airplays plus the number of sales equals a number. The biggest number is number one, second biggest is number two, and so on. Well, our sales number was always zero.
Ooh, ooh.
Had you put in the sales numbers, Moonlight Feels Right would have been number one for at least 2 weeks.
Ooh, I'm calling Billboard right now. Wow.
Interesting.
Mm.
Cool. You mentioned the Lost Masters, John. So that was a discovery that you shared with me, a couple years ago or whatever it was. My big takeaway from that, which I think is relevant to this release that you got out now, Bruce, is just how deep your catalog, how good it is for if people only or exclusively or predominantly think of you as Moonlight Feels Right. The rest of the catalog is, I don't think what people would expect. There's a lot of jazz influence. There's a lot of groove oriented songs. We mentioned the Mini Moog. That thing comes out as the bass line. So you have this diversity, and are you continuing to explore that full diversity in, year 2023, 2024?
Yeah, I mean, when I write, I never have anything in mind. I don't know what a hit is, and I don't think anybody else does. So I'm never going, okay, I need to go jump back, baby, jump, jump, ooh, ooh, jump back, to get my little simple hook. I just write the songs. Matter of fact, I'm doing a side vanity project right now because I write country songs too. But country songs do not fit well under the brand Starbuck. So I've created an alter ego group called JW and the Knockouts. And I just got I have a song out right now that just came out called Less Thinking, More Drinking. And it got picked up at a number of radio stations in Louisiana today, and also a station out of Branson that's on 50, a 50 station chain added it. But we're doing I Totally Love You and stuff. She Broke My Heart at Walmart. That kind of stuff.
Do you try to let people know that it's Bruce Blackman, or do you try to hide that, and then if they figure it out, they figure it out?
Well, some of them are kind of figured it out, but I'm JW.
Yeah.
That's my Mississippi Delta roots name. I was in a band called the Lancers. They called me up to join this band called the Lancers in Greenville, Mississippi. When I was 16. And they had a picture of them on the levee, because Greenville's right on Mississippi River, and it said they were holding fake lances, and the headline said, "The Lancers on the levee with Lancers." And I went, God, man, y'all got to change that name. That's embarrassing. We can't. At that time, the big names in our area were Tommy Burke and the Counts, Joe Frank and the Knights, Tim Whitson and the Imperials. I thought those were the good names. Well, the lead singer in the Lancers was Johnny Walker. So I said, let's change our name to JW and the Knockouts. But they wouldn't do it. But after all, 60 years later, I'm going to try to resurface JW and the Knockout just for fun. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you get to say it in a nice Southern way. W. We say W up here, and you get W. I love that.
It's W.
W.
AW. Just like in the South,
Yep.
all soft drinks are Cokes.
Yeah.
Now, in Mississippi, you go in a restaurant and say, oh, I like a Coke. They'll say, what kind? You say a Pepsi. They go, okay. So, that's the way it works.
Yeah. All right. Well, so 35 songs on 3 LPs. Is it also CD or is it only on vinyl?
Yeah, it's a box CD set as well.
Box CD set. So, and it is kind of an anthology. Is it, as I'm looking at the track list here, it's not chronological though, right? It's your catalog is sprinkled throughout, or is it chronological?
Yeah, I tried to use the wave, doing an album. You don't want everything up and everything down. So I was trying to do the wave like that to bring you up and then come down. Got a little awkward because you got some things with the 70s technology, maybe followed up by something from now technology. And there's certainly a different sound in those things. Some people think the older is better, some think the newer is better. So, but they're different sounds simply because of the recording technology is so much better than it was.
I tend to like the variety, John. I don't know whenever you're
Yeah.
looking at a box set, I would have shuffled it if it were all in order anyway.
I do not like compilations that are strictly in chronological order. I like it to bounce around. I
Yeah,
couldn't believe though that the full Cleveland did not make the cut. That disappoints me. That's one of my faves. You told us that story. People got to go back to listen if they want to know what the full Cleveland is. He's not going to tell you here. You got to go back listen to the old episode. But that's a great track. It's so fun.
A little fun, a little talent, just for you, the full Cleveland.
Love that.
Big term in the South, but outside of the South, we even went up to Cleveland to promote that record. They never heard of the full Cleveland, but full completely was well known in the South. So
All right.
Yeah.
All right. It's a funny story.
Well, speaking of funny stories, I was going to recommend everyone needs to go follow Bruce Blackman on Facebook because you always tell these great stories and they're always the perfect length. I don't know how you do it. I'm somewhat of an amateur author myself. I'm like, when it needs to be brief, it's brief. When it's fully in depth, it's fully in depth. So go listen to those stories told by Bruce himself on Facebook, and maybe we'll link to that in the show notes. But I think
and the chart updates too. He's always telling us
the chart updates. There is one other story. Speaking of stories, and speaking of the previous episode, I'm just trying to tease so people will go listen to that. The great story about the name Starbuck. In the twist end, there's a twist ending to it.
yes, well, when we first put that together, I was in a group called Eternity's Children in the '60s. We had a mild hit called Mrs. Bluebird. Well, we had these Dixie Mafia managers out of New Orleans. I was 17 years old, didn't know anything. We signed contracts. If we had had 10 #1 records in a row, we would have made $200. So they took everything. So I finally left the group because I was tired of living like a refugee. Well, they hired Bo Wagner to come in and replace me in Eternity's Children. They were recording with Gary Paxton out in Bakersfield. He was recording the Along Comes Mary, Cherish, the songs like that. And Bo was a studio player. Well, Bo joined the group because he liked the songs they were playing. When he found out the guy that wrote the songs had left, he left. So he goes on tour with Fifth Dimension. When he gets off of that, he goes on tour with Liberace as his music director. So Liberace comes to Atlanta, I get a call from this complete stranger. It's 1970. Complete stranger named Bo Wagner. He said, "We want to invite you and your wife down to see Liberace." And I went, "Oh man, we're not interested in that." And he said, "Oh, come on, you can come backstage and see Lee. You'll get to meet Lee." So we decided to go. So we go down, we had the front row seats, went back, met Lee, and Bo started talking to me about putting a group together. So he's very persuasive. So we put a group together by putting ads in the Great Speckled Bird, which was a hippie newspaper in Atlanta. Great players, but we didn't know anything about them personally. Normally, bands evolve from a neighborhood, or we didn't know any of these guys. Well, Bo calls Gary Paxton, who had now moved to Nashville, and Gary said, "Well, come on up. We'll record an album." So we went up to Nashville, we recorded a one-day album, and immediately got a deal with RCA. But the name of our group was Mississippi. So the guys at RCA said, "You're going to have to change your name because we're about to sign a group from Australia named Mississippi." Well, I had just reread Moby Dick, and the first mate in Moby Dick is named Starbuck. So I thought that was a cool name, so I blurted out Starbuck, and that's when we became Starbuck. Later on, Starbucks, the coffee company, uh, sent me a lawsuit. But when they found out that I had started Starbuck in 1970 and they started in 1971, they had to drop it in a hurry. So today, I'm the only person on earth that can use the name Starbuck without getting sued.
Wow. But the twist ending was this band from Australia decided not to
Oh,
use the name Mississippi.
they ended up changing their name to the Liver River Band.
There you go.
My
So,
takeaway is Eternity's Children. Now that was a good band name too. So we're talking
yeah.
band names. Eternity's Children, good name.
Yes, absolutely. As is Starbuck. And so, yeah, Starbuck, Moonlight Feels Right, the collection 1975 to 2023. There will be a volume two, which is good news. But for now, go out and get your hands on volume one. I've seen the track listing. It is a who's who or what's what of the best of Starbuck, except for One Last Love Song. But that's coming soon.
That's coming soon.
All right, Bruce. Well, good luck with it. People go to Bruce Blackman's website and get the copy of the book here. Also, Moonlight Feels Right, the stories behind it. It's a great read, and you could get it hand signed by Mr. Bruce Blackman himself. So there you go. All right, Bruce. Thank you very much. And we'll obviously we're going to be talking again because we're going to look ahead to volume two.
Okay, man. All right. I enjoyed it.
All right, us too. We'll see you then.
Okay, man. Do you know the story about the white hat?
No.
Okay. My manager told me that I didn't have enough hair to be a front man. So it was on a Wednesday, and on Friday we're going to flying to LA to tape American Bandstand, Merv Griffin, I don't know, Solid Gold, a number of shows. Well, they on Wednesday they sent me down to this down Atlanta, and these guys shaved off the front of my head and sewed hair into it. So man, I looked like Wolfman Jack. I mean, I had a hairdo. Well, the next morning, I get up and my head is all swollen. It's red. So my wife said, "No, no way. Can't do this." So she cuts all those stitches out. Well, then Friday we get up, or we're taking the red eye on Thursday night. My head's also, I look like a medical experiment. So we get out to LA and we're going on the bandstand first. Well, I got to cover my head. So my wife went out on Sunset Strip. She came back with a do-rag, a yacht captain's hat, a baseball hat, and this hat, which is a Kangol English driving hat. So right before, literally 5 minutes before going on bandstand, we tried all the hats on, and she said, I like that white hat. That's kind of cool. So I wore the white hat, and I had to wear it on all those TV shows. Fast forward 3 months, we're in Kansas City, and Hamilton, Joe Frank, and Reynolds is opening for us. After they finished their set, I walked out on the stage with no hat. 15,000 people started stomping their feet going, "White hat, white hat, white
Oh
hat."
my God.
Wow. So I sent the hat was in the bus, sent my roadie out to the bus. He comes walking out on the stage holding the white hat, and the hat gets a standing ovation. And so I said, "Okay." That's why I got a hat on right now. Ever since then, if I'm going to be in public in any kind of performance or whatever for Starbuck, I wear the outfit, you know.
To this
Is that the night
day.
you had to, is that the night you had to play Moonlight like 3 times?
It is.
Yeah.
That was pretty common, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to play it. Sometimes we couldn't play it enough, and we'd do it as an encore. We tried other songs as encores, but they wanted Moonlight. So hey, I wanted to see
What do
those
you want?
lighters up in the air. That's it. Back then, that's what you saw. So
50 years
So,
later, I still am not tired of it. So,
yeah,
oh, me
enjoy.
either. Hey, why are we here?
yeah, exactly.
The driving hat goes with the car on the cover, right?
There
Yeah.
you go. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for the added story, Bruce. This was fun.